Everyone, welcome to Play Hooky with me. My name is Roz, and in today's video I'm going to be showing how to make the mitered granny square to infinity. This is a variation of a classic granny square, but instead of working in the round, we'll instead be working continuously on two sides of the square to make that cool mitered effect, which is perfect if you have a variegated or ombre style yarn that you want to work with. But I will be sharing how to fasten on and off just in case you want to have more control of your colors and your striping, as well as this optional flower granny square to give it a different look. As always, there are timestamps along the progress line so you can jump to your point of interest, as well as in the description box below. To begin this, we're going to be making a classic granny square to start off. So go ahead and put a slip knot on your hook, or you can start with a magic circle if you would prefer. If you're working along with me, go ahead and chain 4. And then going into the very first chain that we started with, go ahead and do a slip stitch to form a ring. Okay, in this little circle or ring here, we're going to be making 4 granny clusters with 3 chains in between each one of these. Go ahead and chain up 2 or 3 depending on what you prefer. You might like 2. It depends on how tall you like your double crochets to be. I prefer 3, so I've done chain 3. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets to complete our first cluster. Chain 3. This is our first little corner. Now it's time to do another granny cluster, which is just 3 double crochets. So let's do that. 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Chain 3. Another cluster, 3 double crochets. Chain 3. We're getting ready to do our 4th and final cluster, 3 doubles. And chain 3. To close this, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first chain 3. 1, 2, 3, there it is. And we're finished with round 1. Now you can fasten off here if you want to switch colors, but if you're working along with me, I'm going to be showing how to work this continuously. You can do this a couple of different ways. We need to get into one of these corners. You can either slip stitch across to work in this corner, or you can work in this corner, and I'm going to do that because I like to flip my square back and forth. And I do that because I think it gives a straighter square when you're all finished. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And then working into this, I'm going to start with a single crochet just to get started. That's going to serve as my first stitch. And then I'm going to chain 2 more to complete that. So that's the equivalent of first double crochet. Now I'm going to form the first half of this corner by doing 2 more doubles. Chain 3. And then another cluster, 3 doubles. Now some crocheters or some patterns you see may show that you can do a chain between these clusters. I prefer to skip that, but if you find this is working too tightly for you and your piece is curling up, go ahead and add those chains in between. But I'm going to skip the chain and I'm going to go straight into this next corner with my first 3 doubles. Chain 3, 3 doubles. Okay, and just repeat this in the next 2 corners here. You're going to do a cluster, chain 3, cluster, and then repeat that in this one. And we've reached the end. So what we need to do is slip stitch into the top of that very first chain 3, 1, 2, 3, to complete this round. Now we're ready for round 3, and this is when we start doing the mitering effect. And what we need to be aware of here is we're just going to be working 2 sides, not all 4 sides now to begin our mitering. This is the only tricky side where we have to do some slip stitching to get started. I'm just going to chain 1 to give myself some wiggle room, and I'm going to flip my work. Now if you don't like flipping, you don't have to. You can just slip stitch your way across to this corner, but I do like flipping to make a straighter square. So I'm flipping my work. And now I am going to slip stitch my way to this corner. And now I'm ready to work in that very first corner. Now to do this, we're not going to do a traditional corner. We're only going to do 1 cluster of double crochets. So going into that corner, I like to do a single crochet to begin with a chain 2. That's going to serve as my first double. Now 2 more. Since we only have 1 cluster here, it's kind of a tight pull, because what we need to do now is go into this next little space here with our double crochets. I do like to chain here to give myself a little bit more room to get here. Now do your double crochets, 3. Now in this corner, we are going to form another corner. Great. So that is 1 side completed, and now we're going to finish the second side. Remember, we're only working 2 sides. Here's our little space, so we're just going to do 3 doubles. And now we're back to this corner here, and we're at the end of our row or round. So we're just going to do a group of 3 double crochets to finish this round. Okay, you should have something that looks like this now. You've worked 2 sides. Here's your beginning corner, and this is where I like to go ahead and add some stitch markers. Now if you're fastening off and on, you don't really need to do this. It's very easy to see where you begin and you start, but when you're working with a continuous color, this can get kind of tricky. So what I'm going to do is, I know I worked these 2 sides, so I'm going to put a stitch marker right here at that beginning corner, okay? And I'm going to do the same on this side. Right there where I finished that side, I'm going to put another little stitch marker. Getting ready to work row 4 now. Go ahead and chain 3 and turn. Now as you continue on, you're going to deal with 2 sequences. First you're going to do a round of clusters like you see here, and then the next round after that you'll be chaining up. Okay, so this is forming your first side, and now we're going to work into this space with our group of clusters. Another space, work your clusters. We're at a corner, so we're just going to work our corners as normal. So that's 3 doubles. Chain 3. And then 3 doubles. Back to the side, just 3 doubles. Another space there, do another cluster. Now if you recall, we did a chain 3 to start this round, and that was serving as your first double crochet side. We're going to do the same over here, but we're just going to do a double crochet in the top of this first chain 3. Great. Getting ready for round 5. Go ahead and chain up 2 or 3. I do prefer to just do 2 at this point. Go ahead and turn. You may want to do your normal 3, but I have found when I'm working on the sides here, when I do a chain 3, it kind of bends and it doesn't keep such a straight side. Just do a chain 2 on the sides, it keeps a straighter edge. But either way, that's going to serve as your first double crochet, and you're going to be working into this space. So do 2 more doubles to form that first cluster. And that's how this sequence is going to go. We're going to do clusters on the sides for this round, and then the next round it'll just be a chain. Now we're all done with that round. So we've just done a cluster side, so now we chain 3 and turn. And this is all we're going to be doing for the entire blanket. You're just going to work side to side, back and forth until you get to the size of a blanket that you want. So working our cluster. To make this little flower super easy to do, I'm going to start with a magic ring, but if you don't want to do a magic ring, go ahead and chain 4 with a slip stitch. Within this magic circle, I'm going to make 16 single crochets. To finish, go ahead and do a slip stitch into the top of the very first single crochet and fasten off. Just tighten that circle to whatever width you want. To make the flower petals, I'm going to be using the bobble stitch, very similar to the puff stitch or the popcorn stitch. In this one, we're going to be making 5 double crochets joined together. To get started, we're going to go into the top of any of these single crochets. Make sure that you have 16. I like to do a single crochet to start, and then I chain 2 more. That's going to serve as my very first double crochet. So now I'm going to do 4 more double crochets because I want to have a total of 5. So yarn over, going into the same space, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. Now let's start on the next one. Yarn over, going back in, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, as if you're doing a double crochet, but stop. Let's do it again. Yarn over, go through and pull, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop. Let's do that one more time. Yarn over, pull through 2. Now we have our 5. Yarn over, pull through all the loops on your hook, and you've created your very first petal. Secure with a chain and chain 2 more. Yarn over, skipping that stitch and going into the next one. Repeat the process. Yarn over, pull through 2 and stop. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, we're good. Yarn over, pull through all of the loops on your hook. Okay, so we are going to do this 6 more times. When you're finished with this, you'll have 8 petals. 1, 2, 3 chains in between each. Okay, nearing the end here, 1, 2, 3, and then go ahead and just slip stitch into the top of that little single crochet there that you use to join the top together. Hope that made sense. And then just fasten off how you normally would. Okay, now we're ready for round 3. This is going to be the final round for that initial square before we start building the mitered sides to this. Just fasten on however you like best. We're just going to be doing granny clusters. I started with a single crochet with a chain 2. That's going to serve as my first double crochet. 2 more doubles. We're making a side, corner, side, corner. So that's my first side. Now I'm going to work on a corner. It's 3 doubles. Chain 3, 3 doubles. Back to a side. We're just working into the chain spaces. Super, super easy. Another corner. I'm doing this pretty fast because I'm trusting you watch the first segment. Okay, we're all finished. So I'm just going to slip stitch into that first chain 3 at the very top there. At this point you can go ahead and fasten off if you're changing colors. If you are working this flower and you want to continue on with a continuous color, or if let's say you want to start your mitering with this, what I would recommend you do, because you want to get into a corner to start, I would recommend that you chain 1, turn, and slip stitch all the way over to this corner to start the mitering rounds. If you're fastening on and off with different colors, just go ahead and start in any corner that you like. Just remember you're only working 2 sides, so you're going to start with a cluster in this corner and finish with a cluster in this corner. The only time you're going to create another corner is right here. What I'm doing here is I'm working 2 rows or 2 rounds in the same color before I fasten off. So just fasten on however you like best, chain 2 or 3, whatever you prefer, and then create your very first cluster for that side. And now you're just going to work clusters all the way around, just like you normally would. Okay, I'm at my second side and my final side. Now if you want to do very narrow stripes, I go ahead and fasten off here. But if you want to continue on with the same color like I'm doing here, just chain 3, flip your work, and then go into that very first space with your cluster of doubles. I'm at the end here, so I need to do a double crochet for this round, just going into the top of that first chain 3 with a double crochet. And at this point you can go ahead and fasten off, and what I would recommend you do when you start your next round, go ahead and flip your work over and then start in your corner and just continue on with the sequence. The reason I like to flip back and forth is because I find that it gives a much straighter square when you're working in continuous rounds like this. And here's just another little tip. Just when you're fastening off, you may like to join your color before you fasten off. It just saves a little bit on the knotting. So what I would recommend here is just do your double crochet like you normally would. do one side or one yarn over, pull through, and before you finish your double crochet, go ahead and grab your next color that you want to use. And I'm just going to hook that around and pull it through. Okay, give myself a little bit more of a tail there. And you can take and snip your brown or whatever color you're using, and you can kind of tie those together. Let me show you. This is what I do. I don't knot it, but I do tie it together just to keep things in place a little bit. Just helps out. And now I'm ready to start the next round. So for this, just chain up 2 or 3, depending on what you like for your double crochets. When I'm working on the sides, I like to just do 2, and I do explain that in the first segment as well. And then continue on with my cluster. And then just continue on as I normally would. I know some of you are going to ask about a border, what kind of border to put on this, and I would suggest just a very simple granny style border. And that just means that you would go in with your granny clusters like you've been doing all along, create your corners just as you did all the way through your blanket, and it will give a beautiful finish to your piece. Or you may want to do a round of granny clusters and then a spike stitch. And I'll go ahead and leave a link here so you can see what I'm talking about.